Eric Lynn Wright, September 7, 1963 to March 26, 1995, better known by his stage name Eazy-E, who is affectionately called the godfather of gangster rap, was an American rapper who performed solo and in the hip-hop group NWA. Wright was born to Richard and Kathy Wright in Compton, California. After dropping out of high school in the 10th grade, he supported himself primarily by selling drugs, before investing in Ruthless Records and becoming a rapper. When Ruthless artists Dr. Dre and Ice Cube wrote Boys in the Hood, Dre, Cube, and Eazy formed NWA after DJ Yella, MC Ren, and Arabian Prince joined the group. NWA released NWA and the Posse. In 1988, they released their most controversial album, Straight Outta Compton. The group released 2 more albums, and then disbanded after Eazy released Dr. Dre from his contract. Eazy's main influences included 1970s funk groups, contemporary rappers, and comedians. When reviewing Eazy's albums, many critics noted his unique overall style, with Steve Huey of the AllMusic Guide summing up, while his technical skills as a rapper were never the greatest, his distinctive delivery, invariably described as a high-pitched whine, over-the-top lyrics, and undeniable charisma made him a star. Early life and Ruthless Records investment. Eric Wright was born to Richard and Kathy Wright on September 7, 1963, in Compton, California, a Los Angeles suburb notorious for gang activity and crime. His father was a postal worker and his mother was a grade school administrator. Wright dropped out of high school in the 10th grade, but later received a high school general equivalency diploma, GED. No one survived on the streets without a protective mask. No one survived naked. You had to have a role. You had to be thug, player, athlete, gangster, or dope man. Otherwise, there was only one role left to you. Victim. Jerry Heller on Eazy-E being a dope man and thug. Wright supported himself primarily by selling drugs. Wright's friend Jerry Heller admits that he witnessed Wright selling marijuana, but says that he never saw him sell cocaine. As Heller noted in his book Ruthless, a memoir, Wright's dope dealer label was part of his self-forged armor. Wright was also labeled as a thug. Heller explains, the hood where he grew up was a dangerous place. He was a small guy. Thug was a role that was widely understood on the street. It gave you a certain level of protection in the sense that people hesitated to fuck with you. Likewise, dope dealer was a role that accorded you certain privileges and respect. In 1986, at the age of 23, Wright had allegedly earned as much as $250,000 from dealing drugs. However, he decided that he could make a better living in the Los Angeles hip-hop scene, which was growing rapidly in popularity. He started recording songs during the mid-1980s in his parents' garage. The original idea for Ruthless Records came when Wright asked Heller to go into business with him. Wright suggested a half-ownership company, but it was later decided that Wright would get 80% of the company's income, and Heller would only get 20%. Heller said to Wright, "Every dollar comes into Ruthless, I take 20 cents. That's industry standard for a manager of my caliber. I take 20, you take 80%. I am responsible for my expenses, and you're responsible for yours. You own the company. I work for you." Along with Heller, Wright invested much of his money into Ruthless Records. Heller claims that he invested the first $250,000 and would eventually put up to $1 million into the company. Musical career. NWA and Eazy Does It, 1987-91. NWA was formed when Ruthless signees Dr. Dre and Ice Cube wrote Boys in the Hood. It included Wright, Dr. Dre, and Ice Cube, and later DJ Yella, MC Ren, and Arabian Prince. The compilation album NWA and the Posse was released on November 6, 1987, and would go on to be certified gold in the United States. The album featured NWA collaborating with the Fila Fresh Crew, a West Coast rap group originally based in Dallas, Texas. Eazy-E's debut album, Eazy Does It, was released on September 16, 1988, and featured 12 tracks. It was labeled as West Coast Hip Hop, Gangsta Rap, and Golden Age Hip Hop. It has sold over 2.5 million copies in the United States, and reached number 41 on the Billboard 200. The album was produced by Dr. Dre and DJ Yella and largely written by Ice Cube, with contributions from MC Ren and the DOC. Both Glenn Boyd from the Seattle Post-Intelligencer and MTV's John Wiederhorn claimed that Easy Does It paved the way for NWA's most controversial album, Straight Outta Compton. Wright's only solo in the album was a remix of the song 8 Ball, which originally appeared on NWA and the Posse. The album featured Wright's writing and performing. He performed on 8 songs, and helped write 4 songs. After the release of Straight Outta Compton, Ice Cube left due to internal disputes, and the group continued as a 4-piece ensemble. NWA released 100 Miles and Runnin' and Niggas for Life in 1991. A diss war started between NWA and Ice Cube when 100 Miles and Runnin' and Real Niggas were released. Ice Cube responded with No Vaseline on Death Certificate. Wright performed on 7 of the 18 songs on Niggas for Life. In March 1991, Wright accepted an invitation to a lunch benefiting the Republican Senatorial Inner Circle, hosted by then-President George H.W. Bush. A spokesman for the rapper said that Eazy-E supported Bush because of his performance in the Gulf War. End of NWA, and feud with Dr. Dre, 1991-94. NWA began to split up after Jerry Heller became the band's manager. Dr. Dre recalls, the split came when Jerry Heller got involved. He played the divide and conquer game. Instead of taking care of everybody, he picked one nigga to take care of, and that was Eazy. And Eazy was like, I'm taken care of, so fuck it. Dre sent Suge Knight to look into Eazy's financial situation, because he was beginning to grow suspicious of Eazy and Heller. Dre asked Eazy to release him from the Ruthless Records contract, but Eazy refused. The impasse led to what reportedly transpired between Knight and Eazy at the recording studio where Niggas for Life was recorded. After he refused to release Dre, Knight declared to Eazy that he had kidnapped Heller and was holding him prisoner in a van. The rumor did not convince Eazy to release Dre from his contract, and Knight threatened Eazy's family. Knight gave Eazy a piece of paper that contained Eazy's mother's address, telling him, I know where your mama stays. Eazy finally signed Dre's release, officially ending NWA. The feud with Dr. Dre continued after a track on Dre's The Chronic contained lyrics that insulted Eazy-E. Eazy responded with the Airpit song, Drive Dre, 187 Killer, featuring the tracks Real Motherfucking G's and It's On. The album, which was released on October 25, 1993, contains pictures of Dre wearing lacy outfits and makeup when he was a member of the electro-hop world-class Wreckin' Crew. Legal issues. After Dr. Dre left Ruthless Records, executives Mike Clean and Jerry Heller sought assistance from the Jewish Defense League, JDL. Clean, a former Ruthless Records Director of Business Affairs, said this provided Ruthless Records with leverage to enter into negotiations with Death Row Records over Dr. Dre's departure. While Knight had sought an outright release from Ruthless Records for Dr. Dre, the JDL and Ruthless Records management negotiated a release in which the record label would continue to receive money and publishing rights from future Dr. Dre projects with Death Row Records, founded by Dr. Dre with Suge Knight. The FBI launched a money laundering investigation under the assumption that the JDL was extorting money from Ruthless Records to fight their causes. This led to JDL spokesperson Ive Rubin issuing a press release stating there was nothing but a close, tight relationship between Eazy-E and the organization. Death. On February 24, 1995, Eazy-E was admitted into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles with what he believed to be asthma. Instead, he was diagnosed with AIDS. He announced his illness in a public statement on March 16. Eazy's sexual activity began at the age of 12, and resulted in not only a fatal disease, but 7 children with 6 different women. He died due to complications from AIDS 1 month after his diagnosis, on March 26, 1995, at approximately 6:35 p.m. Pacific Time. He was 31 years old. During the week of March 20, having already made amends with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, Eazy-E drafted his last message to fans. 1 week after the release of that message, Eazy succumbed to the disease. Eazy was buried at Rose Hills Memorial Park in Whittier, California. In November 1995, shortly after Eazy-E's death, STR 8 Off the Streets of Motherfucking Compton was released. Some in hip-hop have questioned the circumstances around Eazy-E's death, including Bone Thugs-n-Harmony in November 2009 and BG Knockout in August 2011, who have said that Eazy-E's death was very sudden for a case of AIDS, and that he was still in good health until shortly before his passing. Musical influences and style. AllMusic cites Eazy-E's influences as Ice-T, Red Fox, King T, Bootsy Collins, Run.M.C, Richard Pryor, The Egyptian Lover, Schoolie D, $2 Prince, The Sugar Hill Gang, and George Clinton. In the documentary The Life and Times of Eric Wright, Eazy-E mentions collaborating with many of his influences. When reviewing STR8 Off the Streets of Myth African Compton, Stephen Thomas Erlewine noted Eazy-E sounds revitalized, but the music simply isn't imaginative. Instead of pushing forward and creating a distinctive style, it treads over familiar gangster territory, complete with bottomless bass, whining synthesizers, and meaningless boasts. When reviewing Eazy Does It, Jason Birchmore of AllMusic said, in terms of production, Dr. Dre and Yella meld together P-Funk, definition jam-style hip-hop, and the leftover electro sounds of mid-80s Los Angeles, creating a dense, funky, and thoroughly unique style of their own. Birchmore described Eazy's style as dense, unique, and funky, and said that it sounded absolutely revolutionary in 1988. Several members of NWA wrote lyrics for Eazy Does It, Ice Cube, The DOC, and MC Ren. The EP 5150, Home 4th features a song written by Naughty by Nature. The track Merry Myth African Christmas features Minajitwa, Buckwheat, and Atman Clan as guest vocalists, and Neighborhood Sniper features Cocaine as a guest vocalist. It's On, Drive Dre 187 Killer features several guest vocalists, including Gangsta Dresta, BG Knockout, Cocaine, Cold 187 Rhythm D, and Dirty Red. STR8 Off the Streets of Myth African Compton featured several guest vocalists, including BG Knockout, Gangsta Dresta, Silky, Fine, Dirty Red, Minajitwa, Roger Troutman, and XN.W. members MC Ren and DJ Yella. Legacy. Eazy-E has been called the godfather of gangster rap. MTV's Riyad Shyam said that Eazy was a rap pioneer, and he is sometimes cited by critics as a legend. Steve Huey of AllMusic said that he was one of the most controversial figures in gangster rap. Since his 1995 death, many book and video biographies were produced, including 2002's The Day Eazy-E Died, and Dead and Gone. When Eazy was diagnosed with AIDS, many magazines like Jet, Vibe, Billboard, The Crisis, and Newsweek covered the story, and released information on the topic. All of his studio albums and EPs charted on the Billboard 200, and many of his singles Eazy Does It, We Want Eazy, Real Myth African G's and Just Tell It You Know also charted in the US on March 30, 1995, 4 days after Eazy-E's death. Tom Erlewine, a daily arts editor for the Michigan Daily, covered Eazy's career in a feature story. A new Eazy-E documentary DVD is set to be released by Ruthless Propaganda in early 2013. The documentary will feature interviews from Jerry Heller, MC Ren and BG Knockout is from Jerry Heller, MC Ren and BG Knockout is from Jerry Heller.